Sirui has the most affordable anamorphic lenses you could ever get for your super 35mm cinema camera, like the Sony FX30. And what better way to get cinematic footage than with a cinematic lens? But after learning 7 things about this, you may or may not consider this anymore. Fam, mga kapatid, the FX30 is a setup to be an entry-level cinema camera for new kids on the block, or even a B-cam for the kids who have been on the block for a while now. Whoever you are, the Sirui 35mm anamorphic lens may have a place in your kit as you progress in your filmmaking journey. You see, the Sirui 35mm, just like any lens, has a unique look, but not just any look, an anamorphic one. This refers to a means of getting a widescreen look by distorting the lens. But don't worry that I said distortion, because this is actually a good thing. Because typically, without an anamorphic lens, to get this widescreen look with the black bars, you'll be cropping your footage somehow. Whether it's your video resolution settings, literally cropping by using your inspector tools, or overlaying actual black bars over your footage. In comparison to a regular 30mm lens, you'll see the difference in full resolution. Here's the Sigma 30mm without any letterbox added in post, versus the Sirui 35mm desqueeze in post. Alongside that wide look, you also get a unique horizontal lens flare with lights. While handling this lens, I found that it pairs well with the Sony FX30, as the lens itself weighs 700 grams. It may not be the lightest package, but overall it's a more balanced one. This will help counterbalance the camera against your hands for steadier footage, whether you're digitally stabilizing camera or not. Another thing to note is that although Sony is great at their autofocus, the one thing about this lens is that it fortunately takes away that autofocus as it's only manually controlled. I say fortunately because despite it being a downer for many of you who have been mainly using autofocus at this point, the challenge and skill of manual focusing will not only make you stronger as a camera operator, you will learn the art and skill of finally controlling your story through the lens with a 191-degree focus throw, leaving you room for little adjustments. As we start to build up our tool collection, another benefit of the Sirui 35mm is that it comes with gear rings for the focus and aperture rings. When building a rig for the FX30, especially one with a rail system, it's important to consider mounting a follow focus. For me, I use the small rig version, but Tilta has their own as well. For me, the included gear rings are so convenient because it's just one less thing I have to search for and buy from a third party if I want to operate in this style, or if I want a lower profile for public. When it comes to pairing this with the FX30, you'll benefit from the new desqueeze mode. Just know that it only works in log shooting modes, otherwise you'll need an external monitor. Before the recent FX30 update, I was using my Axun C-Mode with my iPhone for a somewhat smaller setup. And while you can see it desqueeze, despite this lens being mainly used for video, you can still use this for photo like any other lens. You just need to actually desqueeze it in post. But of all the things about this lens, the one thing you won't like about it is the minimum focus distance of 2 feet. Yeah. You want to be a cinematographer or filmmaker? Well, another tool to consider in your arsenal is diopters, because these things are like reading glasses at different strengths for your camera lens. To combat the 2-foot minimum focus distance, I used a rapid filter system and attached these 82mm diopters from Ultimax. Here are the diopters and their corresponding minimum focus distances when paired with the Sirui 35mm. If you combine the +1 and +2 diopters, you'll get minimum focus distances of 14 inches. And if you combine the +2 and +4 diopters, you get a minimum focus distance of 6 inches. If there's any anamorphic lens to get for your camera, especially if it's your first, it's this 35mm lens by Sirui. Or you can still save hundreds of dollars with a letterbox. Even if you can't afford, or even if you don't want this lens, there's still other lenses for the FX30 over here.